Hi everyone, it's Jen here and welcome to Jen's Wild About Art. So for today's portrait, I wanted to draw this beautiful Japanese girl. She's wearing a geisha outfit and she just looked absolutely beautiful and the light on her face was incredible, so I was totally inspired to paint her. So I start by drawing her outline in, and you can see now I'm just adjusting everything and popping the flowers on her headpiece. Just getting her ears, all the details around, or just rough details, not even fine details, just very rough details around her hair and her clothes. So I'm going to start with the skin tone, and for the base skin tone I use Venetian red and a touch of transparent pyrrole orange, very diluted, and I take that around her whole face and all the areas of her skin until I get that first layer down. And I avoid any areas that I'm going to want lighter, like her eyes, her lips. I am going to go over her with her hair darker, so I can actually get it where her hair goes a little bit. That doesn't matter, it's not the end of the world. But yeah, I take it around all the areas that are going to be skin tone. And then I go straight in, while it's still wet, with a little bit more Venetian red. Less pyrrole orange, so it's a slightly stronger tone, and I take that into the shadow areas around her face. The shadow tone I'm using is a touch of indigo into the Venetian red, very, very diluted for the shadow areas. I'm going to start the hair tone now, so I'm making up a very dark brown with burnt umber and ultramarine blue for the first layer, and I'll build that up darker and darker, and eventually I'll use indigo for the final touches on her hair, but I start with different mixtures of burnt umber and ultramarine blue with a touch of Payne's grey, and at the end indigo. For the flowers, I go in with pyrrole red. I'm going to keep them very simple, so I literally just do a very light wash of pyrrole red, and very wet, very diluted, and I'll take that onto her kimono as well. And everywhere that's going to have a flower, I'll just blob a little bit of stronger pigment on, and the same with their flowers. Anywhere there's darker petals, I'll just pop a little bit more pyrrole red, more pure pigment, less water. I add a little bit of quinacridone magenta also to the flowers, just to define the petals a little bit more, and it just makes them look a little bit more vibrant and a little bit more detailed. But I'm just doing loose lines, just generally in the shape of flowers. Now I create shadow tones, and I use a little bit of indigo with a touch of red just to make this purpley colour, and I take that around all of the darker areas and anywhere that is going to later be built up quite strongly and quite dark. It just gives her material on her kimono a bit more depth. It just makes it look a bit more three-dimensional. So this is a darker mix for her hair, and I'll build this up in 3 or 4 layers. Here I've gone a bit more indigo and I've added some burnt umber to it just to give it that brownish tone. And I leave little snippets of the underneath hair shining through so it creates highlights. And yeah, I just slowly start to build up the detail in her hair. I also, for the edges of her eyes and her eyelids and her eyebrows, I use the same tone as I've used on her hair. I also make a little mistake and I smudge her eye, but that's okay. While it's still wet, I wet my brush and I just scrub it with my damp brush, and I go in and just blob it up with a wet towel or dry towel until you can barely notice it, and then I can keep going on with the painting. So everything's fixable. If you get it quick enough, it is all fixable. I now go in and add more shadows to her face, and I'm using more Venetian red for this, very diluted still, but every layer it gets slightly stronger, so it looks slightly darker and creates a nicer shadow effect. So I've added some Payne's Grey to her hair. I'll go over the top of that with indigo, but also for her eyes, I've used a touch of burnt sienna because she's got lovely brown eyes. And I add some more detail to her ears and around her facial features. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I will see you all for the next video. Okie doke, thanks again. Bye.